everyone. Let's see, did I just remove my video? Thank you for joining us. It is our pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Edith Ramirez. I am the Economic Development Director for the City of Morgan Hill. The City of Morgan Hill is trying to do what we can with our partners to help the business community maneuver through this difficult time. So we're doing this Resiliency Roundtables. Today is the conversation about retail and what we can do to support our retail businesses. With that, I want to get us started and give a couple of shout outs and say hello to a couple of folks that are joining us today before we introduce our panelists. First, let me start by saying that Brittany Sherman is going to moderate our panel today. She is the President and CEO of the Morgan Hill Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Brittany. And we have Michelle Bigelow from the City of Morgan Hill joining us to help us make sure that we don't get into any issues with our Zooming technical issues. Thank you, Michelle, for always being there for us. I will have Brittany kick off the panelists, but before I do, I want to say hello and a shout out to Council Member Larry Carr, who's joining us today. And also we have some of our brokers, Dixie Devine with Prime Commercial. Dixie manages 3 or 4 of the largest shopping centers here in our Morgan Hill area. Thank you, Dixie. Christine Furstenberg, another leader in the retail community, ICSC, and a consultant for us on retail. We also have representatives from the Downtown Association, Carrie Wallace, and other folks. Thank you so much for your time today. So without further delay, I'm going to turn it over to Brittany, and we'll be on to not only hear very exciting presentations that we have today from the California Retailers Association, FedEx, and one of our local boutiques. But as questions come up and issues come up, feel free to use the chat and we'll try to engage as the presentations are going. Brittany, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brittany Sherman, CEO, President for the Morgan Hill Chamber of Commerce. As Edith and I were talking about who do we have present for our retail roundtable, we wanted a little bit of a local flair, but also an overall very broad overview of what's going to happen and how we can reopen. So we thought we would reach out to Anna and Charitas from FedEx because they've been wonderful partners with the Chamber of Commerce. They were kind enough to ask Chris to put together a presentation, and so that's what we'll be kicking off with first. So without further ado, I'll let Chris go ahead and take it over, and here we are with FedEx.
How to find unmute. I believe that Charitas wanted to talk a little bit before I started.
Let's see. I think she's probably muted.
You know what? She's in as an attendee, but let me move her over really quickly to a panelist. There we go.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I was on mute as well. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here and to be able to present. I hope that all of you are well, your families are well. My name is Charitas Tarikas. I'm the District Sales Manager for FedEx, and joining me today is also my Director of Sales, Caroline Beaker-Yu, Anna Mayer, who you all know as your Market Account Development Account Executive, and Chris Sates. He is our Customer Integration Consultant in our IT division for Morgan Hill. Chris will be delivering a high-level overview on creating and sustaining an online sales platform for e-commerce business. So I really want to thank you all for joining this series to discuss the importance of creating and sustaining an online presence during and after this COVID-19 pandemic. In this time and era, developing a retail resilience plan is crucial to sustaining your business and future success. So online selling impacts virtually all of our businesses today. Retail e-commerce sales in the U.S. are forecasted to grow from $342.96 billion in 2015 to more than $684 billion in 2011. Succeeding online is all about providing a seamless experience for our customers, regardless of how long you've been in business. We'll provide the industry insights, trends, and best practices you need to improve your customer experience. So without further ado, I'm turning it over to Chris, and I'm looking forward to see how he will empower you all to be able to develop a retail resiliency plan for your businesses.
Thank you, Sharice. Good morning. I am Chris Sadis and I also have Kathy Aquino. She'll be monitoring the questions. She'll take the notes down and we'll get back to you. So if you could please include your email address so we can address any issues regarding FedEx or e-commerce. As it was mentioned, we'll be discussing an overview of e-commerce. This is a high-level overview to show possible ways for your business to use this exciting business opportunity and how FedEx can assist your business. As e-commerce continues to grow, customers are demanding more. For example, faster shipping. We are all aware of Prime 2-day delivery, let alone same day. FedEx can provide both of these. The estimated US online spending is projected to be $600 billion in 2021 and globally just over $4 trillion. Of course, these numbers were before COVID. FedEx is responding to the growth in e-commerce by giving the customer choices and providing you, the merchant, more e-commerce options. This includes 7-day delivery for residential ground deliveries, 24/7 visibility to a package and its projected delivery date via FedEx mobile app, for instance. FedEx also offers supply chain support to assist with returns, for example. This all starts in the e-commerce ecosystem. Let's talk about what an ecosystem is. By definition, an ecosystem is the complex living organisms, their physical environment, and all of their interrelationships in a particular unit of space. So let's think of this in terms of e-commerce. It pertains to all of the interconnected systems that make up an e-commerce business. An e-commerce ecosystem is the complex network that makes up your e-commerce business. We are going to be going over each of these categories. Please note that not all businesses operate with all of the listed categories. Visibility is a portal which provides you visibility on your orders, stock, and transactions, and further details on each of these elements. Visibility also allows you to attract new visitors to your website and aids business growth. It helps customers find your site. To stand out and differentiate from competition, you utilize search engine optimization, or SEO, to improve website ranking and search results. Highervisibility.com is one tool that can help customers with SEO strategy. E-commerce websites depend on new and organic web traffic to survive. Unique visitors are the catalyst of a successful e-commerce platform, and new users cannot be attracted to a business website if it's not visible online. There are a number of ways to improve online visibilities. Utilize SEO tools such as keyword linking. Include long tail and short tail keywords. Interact with followers on social media. Use outbound and inbound links so Google can index your pages. Monitor analytics. Publish digital content such as video, images, or value-added materials. Promote local websites and include meta tags and header tags. The main purpose of demand generation software is to help merchants build and nurture customer relationships over the long term. This will promote interest, increase demand for their products online, expand reach to new markets, and promote new products, create PR buzz. Examples of demand generation software includes HubSpot, BPM, Online, Wishpond, and many others. As mentioned with visibility, SEO is an important part of demand generation. Some of the popular applications that can assist customers with SEO are Marketing 360, highervisibility.com, SE Ranking. Access is how you get your products to your customers through retail locations, lockers, or delivery. You fit into the lifestyle of your customer by allowing the customer to choose how to receive their purchase. Now let's look at what FedEx is doing to provide a better access for the customer. One of the great ways to prevent a package theft is by using hold at location. This allows the customer to pick up where and when they pick up their package. For instance, Walgreens is widely accessible, and the customer can have their shipments held in a secure location and can be picked up on the way home from work. The FedEx mobile app is a great resource to show pickup and ship locations. Reverse or returns logistics pertains to the facilitation of reintroducing goods back into the supply chain. Research shows that 79% of online shoppers are more likely to use a merchant if they offer free returns. 95% of online shoppers are likely to shop again if a merchant's websites if returns are convenient. Key players in reverse logistics are FedEx, Narvar, and UPS. Transportation consists of options a merchant uses to deliver their products to customers. In FedEx, we have express, ground, freight, custom critical, and trade networks. Transaction types in these are business to business or B2B, business to consumer, B2C, or B2I, which is business to individual. Focusing on tailoring to individual customers' wants and needs and not grouping all customers together allow you to better serve your customer. Inventory management is defined as the process of ordering, storing, and fulfilling a purchase by merchants or consumers. It is important to accurately calculate and forecast demand, assuring items are in stock, prepare for seasonability, improve customer experience. Popular inventory management applications are Fishbowl, Stitch Labs, or NetSuite. By maintaining an inventory, you help eliminate customer dissatisfaction of finding out when an item is out of stock after a purchase was made. What is an e-commerce platform? It is a complete online store application that includes navigation, search, user accounts, shopping cart, and ordering capabilities. At the higher end, additional features like guided navigation, gift list, registries, customer segmentation, etc. are included. E-commerce platforms are software applications that allow online businesses to manage their websites, sales, and operations. Shopping carts can be implemented as an individual feature, but most of the time, shopping cart is a component of an e-commerce platform and facilitates the purchase of a product or service. There has been an exciting offer for FedEx shippers with BigCommerce. BigCommerce is offering for the first 4 months free. Normally, it is 15 days, along with shipping discounts and additional features. I've included the website URL if you want to check that out. As you can see, the e-commerce platform is the center of the entire e-commerce business. Benefits of using an e-commerce platform are product management, merchandising, pricing, promotions, search capabilities, ability to personalize sales and services to your liking. Merchants typically have 2 options to utilize e-commerce platform. You build one in-house or you purchase one. Most customers tend to purchase one. Popular e-commerce platforms are BigCommerce, Wix, and Shopify. Payment is the key component to complete an online transaction between a merchant and consumer. Payment gateways are Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, among many others. The next stop in our e-commerce ecosystem is with marketplaces. Marketplaces are an online site where consumers can buy from a variety of sellers. The marketplace operator processes the buyer and the seller transactions, including the sale of services such as payment, fulfillment, shipping, etc. Biggest one, as we all know, is Amazon. We also have Walmart, eBay, Newegg, and many more. E-commerce management is completely managing the online store and its activities such as product branding, customer management, online advertisements, social media presence, and to give the customers a pleasant buying experience. This enables the customer to buy and the merchant to sell across channels. Marketplaces help to connect more sellers and buyers to bring a bigger value. 97% of US customers shop through online marketplaces. Trade facilitation consists of a process of complying with laws and regulations across international borders. This enables goods to be purchased and moved internationally. Speed of the customs clearance process. Merchants must work to properly classify their products, stay informed of restrictions and prohibitions, accurately calculate duties and taxes, and guarantee landed cost and currency conversion. Some examples of solutions that can assist with trade facilitation are FedEx Cross-Border, Zonos, UPS Tradeability, and FedEx International Shipping Assist. FedEx International Shipping Assist is a free service that automates the process of receiving and preparing international documents, harmonized codes, and recipient information for small and medium businesses and individuals who are interested in shipping international. FedEx is continuing to prepare for the future. We continue to implement innovative solutions and explore emerging technologies that have potentially to transform the shipping and logistics industry. A few of the recent innovations include previous mention of residential ground deliveries to 7 days. The FedEx Same-Day Bot and pilot drone program with Wing will deliver customers' orders directly to their homes and businesses on the same day. FedEx Freight Direct takes delivery a step further by moving heavy shipments into customer homes or business. Additional FedEx innovations include robotics. We are using driverless tuggers to haul oversized packages through our FedEx Ground Hub in Greensboro, North Carolina. Using automation for repetitive, simple tasks allows our team members to focus on high-value, skilled work. We're also using blockchain technology. This technology holds significant potential advanced supply chain logistics. FedEx is a charter member in the Blockchain in Transportation Alliance and the Blockchain Research Institute. We have a pilot program underway at FedEx Freight to share shipment information among suppliers, FedEx, and retailers. Continuing our multi-year investments to modernize the FedEx World Hub in Memphis through investments in new sort systems and automation, and expand the FedEx Express Hub in Indianapolis as part of our continued investment in technology and operations to meet the growing customer demand. Making additional strategic investments to grow our FedEx Ground network to effectively handle e-commerce growth, manage costs, and increase productivity. For example, in 2019, we opened 2 major FedEx Ground hubs in Pennsylvania and Connecticut to serve some of the busiest transportation corridors in the US and begin transformation in FedEx Ground operations that will allow us to increasingly integrate FedEx SmartPost packages given to the USPS into FedEx Ground standard operations and improve our capabilities for handling large, heavy items. FedEx is here to assist you. Your FedEx account manager is focused on your specific needs. They are your single point of contact to engage additional resources from IT, operations, claims, and customer service. Regular business reviews can be utilized to analyze your shipping trends and provide a strategic plan to support your ongoing success. In summary, FedEx has flexible delivery options with weekend delivery at no extra charge and the additional security of hold location. FedEx also is fully integrated into the return supply chain. FedEx also has warehousing with order fulfillment options, to name a few. I hope you found this presentation informative, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chris. certainly as I'm thinking about your presentation, I'm thinking about, with more and more delivery happening, how are we, I always feel bad for people that are delivering packages, and some of them are super heavy. My boss orders sand on the sand for an event party planning, and she was like getting sacks of sand delivered to her house, and her husband said, how can you do this to to somebody? So it was really interesting to see the automation and how you're moving forward with that. I really I want to come back to this issue and also kind of think about how do we apply the FedEx best practices to smaller businesses. But before we go into questions, because what I am thinking of doing is setting up a few questions for you. But maybe what we can do is move on through the other presentations. Brittany, is that okay?
Sure.
And then we can collectively also ask questions from each other. So for you, FedEx teammates, you guys can also ask questions of our next speaker. So with that, I'm actually going to ask Councilmember Carr. Michelle, can you bring him as a panelist? Councilmember Carr sent me an email that I thought was interesting and that he thought it could be applicable to our businesses regarding what the Retailers Association is doing. So he is the reason why we have our speaker, one of our speakers today. Councilmember Carr, thank you for joining us. Why don't you introduce our next speaker and tell us a little bit about what your role is with the Retailers Association?
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, Edith. And thank you, everyone, for inviting us to join you today. A great topic. I'm talking about retail and some of the needs that local retail has. I thought it might be really instructive for folks to hear what's going on at a statewide level on some of the retail. And so we invited Rachel Michelin, who is the president and CEO of the California Retailers Association, to join us today. The California Retailers Association represents the big names in retail, as well as retail interests just across the country. I'm involved as a board member for the California Retailers Association. We work on advocacy issues in Sacramento at the state level. As well, the professional team led by Rachel of the California Retailers Association works on local issues in cities and other jurisdictions across the state dealing with retail. Rachel has been intimately involved with the legislature and the governor's office on planning for the reopening, if you will, of California's economy and what steps need to be taken in terms of retail and what the needs of retail will be in that process of reopening our economy. So I want to just hand this over to Rachel Michelin, the president and CEO of the California Retailers Association, to talk about the reopening of California's economy and other issues that retail is dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Welcome, Rachel.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. I'm so thrilled to be talking with you all today. So as Larry kind of mentioned, we're in a really unique position with the California Retailers Association because we have, let me start my video. There we go. We have member companies who have been open as essential businesses, but then also a number of our member companies were closed under the stay-at-home order. And so we are able to kind of come to our reopening plan with the ability to use our best practices of what we have learned from our essential businesses that have been open, some of the challenges they've had, some of the pitfalls they've run into, and then be able to share that information with retailers large and small across the state of California on some of the things that they can expect as they start moving towards reopening their stores and hopefully reopening the economy. What's interesting about retail and why I think this is so very important, and you know this from a city level, retail represents about 57% of sales tax revenue for local governments across the state of California. When retail closed under the stay-at-home order, that not only was a huge hit to business owners who own these retail establishments, but it was also a huge hit to local governments. So we really look at our relationship, oh, sorry, that's my telephone, sorry. Our relationship with local governments is being very important because we are a sales tax driver for your communities. So what we have done, and I'm happy to share it with you after this call, is we've put together, along with the Business Properties Association, which kind of are our landlords when it comes to retail, we have put together some guidelines, some suggestions, both for retailers, but also for local governments to consider as they start putting into place some of the guidelines for reopening the economy. What we are anticipating happening in conversations with the governor's office, in conversations with members of the state legislature, and then the League of California Cities and some other statewide associations, is that if we follow the same path that we did when it came to closing the economy under the stay-at-home order, we will get some broad guidelines coming out of the state when it comes to reopening, but there will be a lot of wiggle room for counties and cities to bring up their own recommendations and guidelines for their businesses in their cities. So what we've done is put together some suggestions. We want to help businesses prepare for opening. We want to give them as many ideas as possible so that they can hit the ground running when they're able to start. We're working closely with the governor's office in terms of his phased-in approach. If you saw his press conference, I believe it was on Monday or Tuesday, I kind of lose track of my days now. He did his 4 kind of stages of reopening. We're in stage 1 right now. Stage 2 will be when retail and particularly curbside can open. And then we move to stage 3 into stage 4. One of the things we are trying to work with the governor and his team is that California is such a diverse state, is how we can do a phased-in approach. So maybe in some parts of the state, while curbside might be a good first step, they might be able to move quicker to opening up their stores with reduced capacity, with focus on social distancing, all the different things that we've talked about, possibly face coverings. We can move to that stage a little bit faster, but other parts of the state where we're following the data, and I follow the data very closely across California, there might be parts of the state we have to take a slower approach. So we're really trying to figure out from a statewide perspective how we can best advocate for all retail in California, not just kind of the big national brands that you'll see, some of the major, department stores and those types of things. But I feel it's very important, and it's conversations that I've had with members of the board, Larry being one, that we also are working very hard to help small businesses and small retailers. We're going to be unveiling a couple of programs next week that we'll be sending out statewide to local chambers of commerce and to city councils on some free resources, particularly for small retailers, so that we can help them prepare for the opening. We are a resource to any of you. If you have questions, you can call me directly anytime. I'm happy to provide any advice and insight that I have on reopening. But it's really important that I think everyone does this thoughtfully, that we look at what the COVID-19 protocols are, that we're going to need to really enforce both with our sales associates and our team members, but also with consumers, that our first job in reopening the economy is protecting the safety of our constituents. So we have a lot of emphasis on that. We provide some insight in terms of the shopping experience. It will be different. It's not going to be the same that it was before. We are going to have to adapt to that until we have a vaccine. But we are pushing very hard to do whatever we can to allow our retailers across the state to open in some capacity and then continue to work with them as things evolve. We're looking at privacy issues, and we're very concerned some of the ideas that are coming out may not be in compliance with the California Consumer Privacy Act that went into effect on January 1 and is enforced starting on July 1. We want to make sure that some of these things that businesses are not going to be opening themselves up for liability, violating CCPA in relation to some of the steps we're taking to stop the spread of COVID. We want to make sure that businesses are protected from liability. We're doing a lot of work with the state legislature around liability and what happens if there's an outbreak again of COVID. Is there going to be some responsibility or liability placed on businesses? There's some conversations now around workers' comp insurance and whether or not employees can apply for workers' comp. We're working very hard to make sure that we have some guidelines and guardrails around that so that that's not taken advantage of. And we want to make sure our employees are protected. That's very important, but we also understand that there has been a significant financial hit to businesses and to retail in California. And we want to make sure that particularly our small retailers have the resources, have the support, have the guidance they need to get out of this situation and be able to be successful and continue to grow their businesses for years and months to come. So with that, I'm open to any questions or kind of wait until the end.
Brittany I think we're gonna, Brittany will introduce the next person and then we'll come back. I have a ton of questions for you, and I know we have some of our major shopping center managers here on the line as well as small businesses. But I've seen some of your promises, some of your suggested strategies. And if you want, we can share those right now at some point during the chat. We can upload them on the chat so people can see them, if that's okay with you.
So let me make sure we have a revised one. So we have the most recent one. And okay. I'm going to be honest, I'm not quite sure how I can, while the other speaker's going, I'll see if I can upload it. Yeah. I don't know if I can do that. Can I do that from here? Or I can always email it to you, and you're welcome to email it out after.
That sounds good. I just kind of wanted to get that information out. And we have a lot of small businesses as well. So I know that a part of the conversation is how some of these strategies can apply to small businesses. So we'll come back to questions.
Okay, perfect. No problem.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. All right, so before I introduce our next and final speaker, I wanted to just remind everybody that if you do have questions, please submit them in the Q&A, because after our final speaker, we will go ahead and start addressing those to our presenters. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Karen France. She is the owner of Mainstream Boutique. It's a retail shop in Morgan Hill. She has done an incredibly fabulous job of transitioning from an in-person business to an online platform. So I asked her to come on and kind of share just for a few moments her experiences and challenges and really how she came up with building this full online platform. So Karen, go ahead and take it away.
All right, there we go. Thank you, Brittany. Yes, I've owned Mainstream Boutique in Cochrane Commons, and we'll be open a year as of May 13th. So needless to say, it was definitely a challenge when those doors were closed. But with the backing of Mainstream and the corporate, we were able to get an online presence up quickly running. So what we did was we went on Facebook and we were doing Facebook Live videos at 6 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And Mainstream definitely helped us with that as far as how to go about getting that and pulling from our emails. Sorry. Anyways, so with that being said, then we started looking into other platforms to make it easier for customers to purchase. So we're not this week, but next week we'll be going into comments sold, which is helping our e-commerce tremendously. It makes it a lot easier for the customers to pay and to purchase product from our POS. So it is hooked to our POS, so our inventory is right online, so customers can definitely just purchase that way. Another thing that I've done to help with connecting with customers is doing private consulting and fashion styling. So with Zoom meetings, they are able to do a one-on-one fashion consulting. So I would pull their size, get their information before the meeting, pull some of their sizes and their styles, and work with them on that as a one-to-one. Another thing that we've done with Mainstream, and Thursday 2 will be our first one. We are working with our vendors where we are doing a duo feed live with Facebook. We will be doing a B live, I think it's called. We're practicing it on Monday. So we were able to go right into the vendor's warehouse, and the customers are able to purchase directly from our vendors, and then the vendors would ship the product to us. That helps us because we don't have to carry the extra inventory. Plus, it's a great shopping experience because it opens up a lot more product for our customers to see without me investing in it and having extra inventory at the end. So those are some of the things that we've been working on and doing. And I have to say the silver lining in all of this is when those doors do open, I will have an online business going that I didn't expect to have at this time. And it will bring in a second source of income. But so we've been very fortunate that we were able to, you know, keep our heads above water at this time. So that is about it in a nutshell.
Well, thank you for sharing, Karen. I just wanted everybody, we wanted to have a local example, and I think you've done a very, very good job. If anybody hasn't seen the fashion shows, you can check on to the Don't Isolate, Virtually Congregate. It's a Facebook page the Chamber created, and Karen's been posting the fashion shows there. Really, really fun, interactive, and like you said, I mean, you're reaching out to a whole new subset of customers, creating that online platform, which is going to be in place when you're ready to open. So I think you've done a great job, and kudos to you.
All right, thank you, Brittany.
All right, Edith, I'll kick it back to you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to ask the panelists to turn on their cameras again so we can see your pretty faces. For the next few minutes, I would like to just kind of kick out some questions, kind of get the conversation going. And I know, Councilmember Carr, you're also involved with the big grocers, right? So from that perspective, I think you can add some value to the conversation of retail. I'm just gonna throw a whole bunch of questions, and you guys can start going places here. So for us, one of the concerns that we have in Morgan Hill is across the board, big and small. So the smallest businesses probably feel the hurt the most. They don't have as much bandwidth. They don't have as much capital. They cannot stay. They don't have as much staying power, and it's very, very difficult for the small businesses to leverage how to stay afloat. So we're incredibly concerned. We're wondering what this is going to do. We know that retail was already changing. And then we have this other dynamic with the shopping centers. And we know that there's already letters going around from the big retailers saying, well, this is what I'm going to do during this time, owner. And we expect some musical chairs to happen, right? We expect dark places to happen. And so from a city perspective, not only do we as a business of providing services to the community, we're super concerned of our own ability to continue to stay afloat, but also for the community as a whole. So here are some thoughts and some questions. Maybe starting with Rachel. With your organization across the board, with your community, what is it that you're seeing? How is it that your conversation is transcending big and small businesses? I do have a specific ask from one of our businesses in Morgan Hill. We happen to have the headquarters for Shoe Palace. Okay. Shoe Palace is a big, trendy sports shoes kind of retailer. And Shoe Palace has their headquarters in town. They have 166 stores nationwide, 92 which are in California. They have a total of 3,000 employees, 1,800 employees in California. So major retailer, small retailer, independent retailer. And we were chatting earlier in the week, and he was just very concerned about the extension of the stay in place order for the retail shops, for the retailers, and we hear it from the small retailers all the time. And he said, Edith, in Texas, we are doing curbside pickup at the mall, you know, keeping people safe, but also giving them the opportunity to go shop. So what I'm wondering is, what are the ideas that we can bring forward to California? What is it that we can do to inch our way forward? Because these retailers are at the brink of bankruptcy. So go ahead, Rachel, take it over.
I will talk about curbside pickup. We actually submitted a letter to the governor's office probably 4 weeks ago, asking for curbside pickup. I have been advocating for curbside pickup since about 2 weeks into the stay-at-home order. I have put it out to the media. I agree. I think that there should be curbside pickup. We do it with restaurants. If restaurants can prepare food and do to-go orders and curbside for a restaurant, why couldn't we have been doing that from the get-go from retail? So you're absolutely right. And we continue to, it was very humbling, I guess, a little bit, that basically a lot of the comments the governor used about curbside were the comments that we had put in our letter. So at least a little bit of our message is getting through. I would say this at this point, we need help. We need local governments to help us. We need some of our bigger retailers to help us. I know that Larry, even our essential businesses and members, they want to see all of retail open. And we really need to start a grassroots effort to really start getting things moving. What I think has been happening is that it's scary to open up the economy because there's still a lot of unknowns when it comes to COVID-19. But a lot of the conversations I've been having with local electeds, with local cities, with chambers across the state is that I think we're ready. I think businesses, there's a lot of good ideas, both within our state, but from other states that we can implement, and that you have to, at some point, allow these businesses to be up and running again. So we're going to continue to push curbside. I will say, frankly, I think we're past a little bit curbside. I think that should certainly be an option, but I also think that in certain parts of the state, there should be an ability for stores to open up. They can follow what some of our essential businesses have been doing in terms of limiting the folks in the number of folks in the store, promoting social distancing. I know some of our member companies are going in and doing the sneeze guards. They're getting the masks. They're getting the PPE for their employees. They're making face coverings available to consumers who come into the door. So I think that we can't use a one-size-fits-all approach either. But I also think this is where, frankly, local governments need to partner with organizations like CRA, because again, we're in this together. If you all as a local government don't have the sales tax revenue, and I've been talking with the League of Cities, I know that right now it's at $7 billion and conservative in terms of the loss in revenue to cities across California. We really need to join arms and work together to put forward some of these ideas, and I think put a little bit of pressure both on the administration and also on the legislature to really focus on the impact this is having on the economy, which frankly also impacts health, because there's all these other aspects to health, like mental health and those types of things, because your business is shut down and you can't open, you're not making payroll. So we have to look at it from a whole holistic approach. So we are pushing, and I would say to any business who has ideas or suggestions, let me know, and we will continue to push. I will help however I can.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm going to take one of the questions from the chat box. It's one that I've heard many, many times from our both essential businesses and non-essential in preparation for reopening. Councilmember McKay had sent this over. Any discussion about shopping typically includes stories about lack of supplies, some key items, and not just items like toilet paper and hand sanitizer, but also flour, yeast, non-perishable items. Is the supply starting to meet the demand, or is panic buying still too much to overcome? And I've heard this even from our businesses that are essential, that are open. I mean, they're just scrambling around trying to find hand sanitizer, masks, gloves, anything just so they can stay open and continue to support their employees. So I'm throwing this out to the full panel. I mean, when those items are necessary and you just don't have access to them, how do you meet in the middle? I need a magic wand, somebody. Somebody's fixed the problem.
Hey, Brittany, maybe I'll jump in here a little bit. So everyone understands my background here. I work for the Albertsons Corporation. We own grocery stores across the country. Here in Northern California, we're the Safeway brand. So the two Safeway stores in Morgan Hill, the company I work for owns those stores. We're an essential business, so obviously we've been open since day one, and supply chain has been a very important part of keeping our business open and alive during this time. And anywhere from the president to governors in all 34 states we operate in have been very interested in supply chain questions. It's a great question, John, and I want to acknowledge my colleague on the Morgan Hill City Council, John McKay, who's joined us here and who's working tirelessly with a lot of the businesses, particularly the small businesses in Morgan Hill, to find out what their needs are so that we can bring those before the City Council and work on the issues that Morgan Hill can. But from a supply chain standpoint, generally the supply chains themselves are strong. They're healthy. We do have blips in some of the service. You have seen in the news recently things about the meat packing plants and those sort of things that are having their challenges as this disease starts getting into those kinds of workforces. In all measures of precaution, the CDC and others have asked some of those places to shut down until everyone can get tested. So as is the key to all of this, testing remains the key into getting things tested. We've had some challenges in our supply chain in getting groceries onto the shelves. I'm sure you have all witnessed that. And it is not from a lack of product. There is plenty out there. Most of the issues that you will see when there is a bare spot in a shelf is because of panic buying. And now that we are 7 going on 8 weeks into this, the public is starting to, as buyers, I'm starting to realize what my needs really are and trying to get into a better mode of my buying habits. One of the ways we look at our sales is based on carts, and those remain very high. But that is getting into a little bit more normalcy as well. Product itself is coming out. We've been working with a lot of cities and other governments on some of the aspects of trucking and how we can get product to stores quicker. We're hiring people. We're one of the few industries that is hiring people. Grocery stores across the country, not just mine, are hiring people because we're trying to get that product on shelves, and we need more help doing that as well. All of our online businesses are going like crazy right now, and we need people who can pick product off shelves and then deliver it. We've hired in the past 6 weeks over 55,000 people across the country. 10,000 of which are here in California. So it is, an industry that's booming, and the supply chain is still strong. We have the ability to buy things on a national level, which is far different than small businesses in Morgan Hill and others that may be struggling to get certain products. That's just entirely a different struggle that small business has. And I know the city of Morgan Hill is trying to think of ways that we can help that. The county and the state as well have been thinking about ways that they can help that. But generally, product is out there. It's a matter of getting it to the places where it really needs to be.
Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and move into another question that I have in the chat box now from Christine Furstenberg for Rachel. What are your retailers saying about how they're paying their full rent when operating at a 25 to 50% occupancy?
So that's where we've partnered with our friends at Business Properties Association. I know some of them have tried to negotiate directly with their landlords and the folks that they rent their space from. I think it's on a case-by-case basis. You know, again, we've been trying to advocate again with our friends over at Business Properties that, you know, this is unprecedented, right? No one expected this. This didn't happen because of bad decisions from the government. It didn't happen because of bad investments. This was something no one expected. We've never really lived through, and that really we're in it together. And if we're going to get out of this successfully, we have to do it together. So, you know, we try to work with them. You know, I'm happy to connect them with our friends at Business Properties on that issue, to talk with them directly. But, you know, my hope is that just like I think all of us are making sacrifices, that, you know, we'll be able, I've seen some contracts where they tack on these couple of months onto the end of the lease so they can pay once we kind of, you know, our goal is that if we can promote retail and we can promote and get these retailers back online as quickly as possible, then we can also promote getting them, getting consumers to go back in there and spending their money, that they'll have the revenue maybe towards the end of the year to be able to make up what we've lost. We will try. I'm not hopeful, but we're going to try to see if we can work with the legislature. Obviously, there's zero money in the budget. You know, but maybe there's some opportunities where we're looking at some different ways to be able to support some of our, particularly our smaller retailers around the state. Because to me, and I think to the board of the Retailers Association, it's the small retailers that make up Main Street. It's the small retailers that are really the backbone of our communities, and that's very important to all of us. So we want to do what we can to support them.
Thank you, Rachel. I have I'm going to move on to FedEx for a second, but before I do, I just want to say, I just want to kind of give a shout out to Brittany. In Morgan Hill, we have overall like about 100 restaurants, and 30 of them are in downtown. We have a Michelin star chef. We have some fabulous food. And immediately after the announcement came out, the Chamber of Commerce came out with a page of supporting curbside pickup, and immediately provided a platform for people to know who is open and for people to share pictures. And overnight, it got like 3,000 people following it. And I really think that is that effort has allowed some of the businesses to stay open. So thank you, Brittany, for being so quick on that. Just so proud of that. We are, and I had to travel. I know we're not supposed to travel. I had to travel someplace, but being in a different place, I was just thinking like, oh my gosh, who is open? How do I find out this information? And you can't order alcohol when you take your order? What? So I was so happy that Morgan Hill, you can actually have drinks delivered with your sandwiches and burgers. So I'm really proud of that, really thinking, what is it that we can do? So as I move to the FedEx question, I know that there's more comments and questions on the box, and we'll continue to get through those questions. I also want the people that are attending to think about, not only for Rachel as an advocate for you at the state, what is it that she can do for you, but also think about what is it that the city of Morgan Hill specifically can do. What is it that the Chamber and the Economic Development and the city can do? We're going to have to rethink, reimagine, reinvent the way we function. And we have no money. I'll say that from the beginning. However, we function in a world of rules and regulations, and we can look at those. So please, please, please start thinking, if today, tomorrow, next week, anything you think that the city can do to support our business community. So on FedEx, what I'm wondering, you talk about how your business platform has just skyrocketed, right, with the amount of online sales. For me, what I'm wondering is, what is it that you can tell us for the small business that they can access your services in this world of now more and more competition out there? How are you fitting in, keeping up with the demand, the employees, the warehousing, the distribution? What is it that you're seeing? How do you see that changing? What is it that the city can do as far as regulations for the way that we handle streets, the way that we handle parking, the way that we handle hours of operation, anything like that? Who wants to take it?
Chris, you want to take it, or do you want me to answer? Well, right now, Edith, to be very honest, there's a upsurge for home delivery versus all the services, express and ground. It's basically home delivery. We're up by about 2 million shipments a day overall. So it's been crazy for us. Right now, FedEx has been actively hiring drivers. So recommendations, people in the warehouse, we're trying to hire more people. So if you know of people who are very much interested in finding jobs, there are a lot of openings right now with FedEx. So that's how we're trying to keep up with the times, Edith. We're trying to broaden, I guess, our workforce. So there's a huge demand right now for home delivery that I can attest to.
Right. Is there anything that you guys from your team can think of as far as the way that you function on the street with the retailers that the city can do as far as rules, regulations to help you function better? And you can come back to that. You can think about it and come back to that. I know we have some other questions and chats and comments on the chat.
Okay, I'll think about that, Edith, but right now I don't see anything, no pressing issues when it comes to support and receiving support from the city of Morgan Hill.
Are you able to find the employees that you're looking for? I mean, there's a lot of shifting around with people that are getting laid off, but also in our recent newsletter, we just shared some of the local companies that are hiring. Are you doing okay? One, keeping up with hiring people and keeping them safe? Any concerns, anything that you're seeing, and anything that you can share for the small businesses as far as best practices?
So when it comes to, I will need to reach out to management, Edith, because I'm not a frontliner, but I know they've always taken extra precautionary measures to ensure that our couriers are safe. But when it comes to hiring, yes, there is an issue right now, and we want to grow. So if you have referrals, we need ground drivers, people in our ground stations that can help out with the home delivery, because we now do 7 days a week to keep up with the demand. With Amazon not delivering the non-essentials, FedEx needs to step up, because suppliers or vendors are going directly to FedEx for those deliveries.
Thank you, Anna. Edith, you want me to take the next one, or did you have another one you want to go? Yeah, okay. This is my personal question, probably more for Rachel on an advocacy side. Through the chamber, we do a lot of advocacy. We have 550 members. Of those, probably 450 are small businesses. So a lot of our heavy advocacy is for the small business community as a whole. We took a position a few years back when the city was trying to decide whether to increase minimum wage above and beyond what the state was requiring. So I believe we sent it to city council. We ended up staying basically on the status quo of what the state recommends. So as we now have a minimum wage increase scheduled for January 1, has there been any discussion about deferring that either towards July or even towards the end of the year next year to kind of help these businesses that are already struggling? Because when we had that conversation years ago, it was already a large issue for the businesses and they were concerned about it. So I can imagine how concerned they probably are about it now. So has there been any discussion, or has the Restaurant Association done any advocacy on that end?
So short answer is yes. As part of the greater coalition of businesses, so us, restaurants, even manufacturing, we've worked with the Business Roundtable on this issue. We've actually already sent a letter to the governor on this issue as well, asking him to delay. At one point, there was some a little bit of back and forth that the governor was open to considering that. I don't think at this point he's obviously hasn't made that decision. I think that you will see that being talked about when the legislature comes back. The assembly comes back on Monday. Right now, the Senate is saying they're coming back on the 11th. That might change. But we're going to continue to advocate for that. I think right now, more than ever, we need to, I will say on the flip side is you've seen the essential businesses that, and you know, maybe Larry can, they've stepped up, and in many cases they've increased. And they've done that right thing because they've been open for the last few weeks. But we really need to take into consideration the small businesses. We need to give them as much capital, cash capital as possible to get through these difficult next months. And hopefully, you know, my hope is that by the end of the year, we're in a different economic situation. We have a vaccine. We're able to bring back some of the larger events that also support, you know, think about where you're at in a community. If you're tied to conventions and you're tied to sporting events or concerts, that's going to, you know, that's going to affect as well. So we are going to continue to advocate for that. And I would just really recommend that, you know, local businesses do that. If you'd like to join with us and get on our mailing list, we're happy to do that and send in letters to your local assembly and senators and say, hey, look, we really need this relief, because it goes back to the point before about paying rent, right? You know, you want to be, we all have to do whatever we can now. We all did what we could during the crisis, which we're still in, but now we all have to be together in the recovery as well. So we're on that one too.
Thank you. Yeah, I've kind of pitched the idea to some of the other area chambers, and I believe as a chamber coalition, we'll probably submit a letter. As I know Gilroy submitted theirs yesterday, and we'll be submitting ours from the Morgan Hill Chamber today. I'm just trying to kind of feel out there and see who else is kind of advocating for the topic. So thank you. Edith?
I was reading the chats and the questions. Thank you. Let's see, I'm kind of working my way from the bottom up. From Christine Furstenberg, for Rachel and Michelle, are retailers and chambers of commerce organizing to fight the split roll tax proposition on the ballot in November?
Well, we're opposed to it. The Retailers Association, we're opposed. We're actually on a committee opposed to the split roll. You know, prior to all of this happening, there was a lot of movement around that. Now we've kind of not, I mean, not that we're still not pushing it, but, you know, we've focused on other things. I think what'll be interesting is there have been a couple of other statewide initiatives that have qualified for the November ballot and are choosing to push on to 2022. So it'll be curious to see what tactic they do on split roll. Do they really try to go for it in November of this year, or do they punt until 2022? But we're continuing, we'll continue to fight it and do everything we can, because the last thing we need right now is something like split roll to affect businesses in California. And but we'll continue to do whatever we can to make sure that doesn't happen.
Thank you. Somebody here, was it Bonnie? Bonnie from from Pona Wellness Spa talked about the challenge to get PPE for, you know, the businesses, and we recognize that continues to be even an issue just for the hospitals. There was somebody else that talked about supporting with local campaigns. Here's a question that I have, and I think if Dixie Divine is still as an attendee, I might put her on the spot and she'll kill me for this. But Karen, going to you and kind of getting Dixie to be ready to think about this. Karen, you're in Main Street, you're in downtown, you're a small business that immediately pivoted to try to live and be useful, productive, and stay afloat in this online world. And clearly we are enjoying and seeing your interactions out there. So thank you for that. You're certainly helping us brainstorm what we can do. But so here's my question. So from a small business perspective, what else do you see that the city can do, that we collectively can do to support each other? While over the next month, we're going to continue to see the stay in place. So I don't know that there is much that we can do. I am thinking about the small business. I am thinking about the shopping centers, Dixie. We are already in a place in Morgan Hill where we were over retailed. So as we see the musical chairs, is there any strategies that your property owners are thinking about to keep the retailers afloat, other than maybe providing some rent relief? Is there any other sort of activation, placemaking, anything creative, I know that it's a hard time from a financial perspective, but is this the time to revamp and kind of spruce up and give it some lipstick to some of those storefronts? So Karen, let's start with you, and we'll see if Dixie wants to jump in.
You know, I've wrapped my head around the different ways that this, you know, we could come together, especially because I'm in Cochrane Commons. So I've actually talked to Staples, and I've talked to Jenna from Mr. Pickles and the Vitality Bowls to see what we could do and other businesses that are there. I just named a few, but to see what we could do as a group to when we do reopen, and how we can come together as a center to kind of promote and get people to come into that center. Still thinking about those ideas. Came up with one, like a Zoom kind of a platform where you invite the community, or we each invite and we each talk about what we do, because we can't obviously, you know, meet in a group. But, you know, I know some of the things that Mainstream has talked about on our meetings is getting other businesses around us together, whether they're giving out gift cards, promoting, cross marketing with the different businesses there, to show that what that center has to offer when it does reopen. So those are the things that I've been thinking about, and I've talked to other owners that are in that center. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of like what my head's been going at.
Yeah, that's really good. We're starting to see some of those partnerships, some creative ways that retailers are trying to also find those platforms to sell their product, or make their product more available, whether it's through you know, local efforts going on with our, you know, as people are trying to support childcare for essential workers, right? And having toys, having activities like that available. So it's interesting to see also restaurants partnering with the wineries, or the bakeries partnering with the wineries. Councilmember Carr, on the grocery storefront side, what are you seeing? What are you seeing as far as best practices that you think could be shared with our small business community in the way that they think about keeping not only their employees safe, but also their customers, and anything that you're hearing that is going to help them move forward? We're assuming that the grocery stores are doing well because it's one of the few businesses, but we don't know because you know, at the end, we don't know how expensive this is going to be for them as well.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, make no doubt about it, as we open up, it's going to be harder to open up than it was to shut down. And we're going to go through a lot of challenges when doing that. I think some of the things that essential businesses have gone through are great things for everyone to learn from. The way that we keep both our employees and our customers safe is got to be at the forefront of everything. So we naturally have to assume that we're going to have less occupancy. We're going to be allowed to have fewer people in stores. Grocery stores today have fewer people. If anyone has gone to, whether it be a grocery store, whether it be Target, whether it be one of the essential businesses that are open, you know that there's a queuing out front. Most have blocked off what is a 6-foot distance as you wait for your turn to go in and shop. We should assume that that's going to be the case everywhere as we begin to open up. And so how can businesses start preparing for that today? That is a very different prospect when it comes to small businesses that typically don't have as big a crowds, but you also don't have space out in front of your store to do queuing that isn't blocking the next door. So we have to really think through all of that. Grocery stores, every grocery store that I'm aware of has instituted one-way aisles. You no longer walk back and forth in aisles. You walk in one direction, almost as if you were in a downtown with one-way streets. Again, a very different prospect for a small business like the Main Street Boutique that doesn't have aisles. They have beautiful displays of the wonderful clothing that is there. But how do we think about the way that people naturally flow and move through our stores to try to be able to keep them at that social distance? PPE for employees, personal protective equipment, is going to be important. It is becoming very commonplace that we wear masks. It is not a social stigma anymore, and we have come to accept that, and we should move forward with knowing that that is socially acceptable now. And so employees in stores are going to need to find a mask that comfortably fits them and that they're able to wear for the majority of their shift, and certainly when they're in contact with employees. At grocery stores and at other kinds of essential businesses, different kinds of plexiglass, if you will, or separations between, say, a checker and a customer have been installed. I don't know how important that will be in a small business. There are other ways of keeping that separation between your employees and a customer. When customers are moving through a checkout aisle at a grocery store in a faster pace, it makes a lot of sense to have that. It takes away a lot from a small business when you put that in. But those are different things that smaller businesses are going to need to think about. And we've all learned from those as essential businesses and the things that we've put in place.
From the grocery store sort of places that are, you have this big, large spaces. And as folks, as you say, sales are going to have to be reduced, even though they're open, just because there's not so many people shopping. Are you guys thinking about how to bring in some of the small retailers to maybe have pop-up retail or showcasing some of the local goods within your stores? Is any of that conversation happening yet?
That conversation is going on, and I would tell you it's not a new conversation for Safeway. Safeway, the way that it operates as a grocer, is a lot of independence down all the way to the store level to make each store unique. And so Safeway does a lot of very local buying, a lot of very local fulfillment, and so that each store, you'll even find here in Morgan Hill between the East Dunn and the Tenant stores that they're very different stores, both in the way that they operate, set up, and some of their offerings as well. Because at a store level, they're allowed to do that. So I would encourage smaller businesses to be reaching out to some of the larger businesses, whether it be in the grocery space or in other spaces, to find ways that you can partner with them and do that. When we talk about occupancy, and we know that there's going to be, as stores open, whether it be a traditional retail store, whether it be a restaurant, what have you, we know that occupancy is going to be less. We had a great question about how do you pay a rent when you only are allowed 25 to 50% of the sales that you previously based your whole business model on, including your ability to pay that rent. We're all going to have to think about those things as a community, and Councilmember John McKay and I have been thinking about that. We're going to be presenting some ideas to council soon, putting my council hat back on, about some ways of doing that, and how do we think about outdoor spaces as adding on to spaces that businesses currently have, whether they be restaurants or other retail, and how can the city of Morgan Hill support that? How does state jurisdictions allow us to do that? We have, the great benefit of weather to be able to use outdoors as a shopping space for us and add to our retail, so that retailers get more space out of that, so that restaurants are able to bring tables outside and still get to their table counts, while being able to eliminate some of the indoor spaces that they have. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. We're going to, I know John and I want to move that very quickly through the city council. And if, you know, others in Morgan Hill have thoughts and ideas on that, they should feel free to reach out to me, to John McKay. They can reach out to Brittany through the chamber to get information to us. And we'd love to engage more with you on those kinds of things.
Thank you. Brittany, you had a comment, and I see another question that just came in.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Primetime example of kind of that partnership between two very different industries, Rocca's Market in San Martin, a local beloved tiny market over there. They've actually partnered with Thinker Toys. So Thinker Toys has set up a table, and they're selling puzzles and, you know, just different little things in there. And of course, the market slammed from 12 to 5, and so they have that little area in there. Kind of just a good example of a partnership that's been created through the community.
Very good. Hey, Michelle, if you are, there you are. If you can bring the attendees just so we can see some faces as we are kind of approaching our last 15 minutes of our webinar, it might be good to invite everybody here to join us. As we're bringing everybody here, I know that there's some questions. Maybe we will open them up for folks to chime in with their mic. I was thinking about FedEx and the robotics when I saw the little picture of the, you know, I don't know what you call that little guy. But I was thinking about that, like, wow, that is neat. It always kind of scares me about employees, you know, losing workforce to that, but I recognize that is actually not losing workforce. You just upgrade your workforce to be more technologically adept to help with the creation of those systems. Are you seeing for FedEx when you're deploying those babies out there? Where are you doing it at? I haven't seen it in Morgan Hill. Is it only internal to your production and business practices within FedEx, or are you deploying those outside onto the street? And if they're functioning on the street delivering goods, what cities, and are you seeing any issues with that? Is it working pretty well for you?
So Edith, I'm not sure. Chris, would you know? I've not seen any yet in in California. But I know they're intending to do this in prime business districts like San Francisco and New York. But I'm not entirely sure, Edith. I know it was launched, but I don't know which specific cities they were launched first. But I know San Francisco is coming up soon.
Yes, they're still on development. There is nothing that's generally released yet.
I'm wondering, you know, kind of like the city hat, right? Like, ooh, how's that gonna work? Do we need to license that? Do we need to get any permits? Like the whole scooter thing, right? Like great idea, but in practicality, it ended up having a whole bunch of issues. So you know, okay, I'm gonna take that hat off. There was a really good question from Fallon Tran. Fallon, are you there?
Yes, hi, good morning.
You want to read your question? You want to tell us what you're thinking about?
Yeah, I'm property owner in City of Newark and was kind enough to ask me to join you guys. It's such a wonderful panel. Thank you so much for putting this together. But my biggest concern is the property tax, and that's hitting a lot of the property owners because a lot of the tenant is having an issue. We're seeing more of an issue in this month than last month, right? So those that's gotten a little bit of the PPP was able to pay some rent, but most of them is not going to. So how is the retail association will help property owner address some of the property tax related issue as well as the, you know, lease contract as well? I know all those case by case issue, but you're talking about we're in a new normal here, right? Most restaurants have X square footage and they're calculating based on, okay, number of table they're able to put in there to maximize number of heads in each store in order to be profitable. Now we're in a new normal. That's no longer the case. Cheesecake Factory is no longer going to need 10,000 square feet restaurant. And how are we going to help address all those issues? And it's going to come up. And I'm already dealing with that with one of our big restaurant tenant. So I'm just wondering, how can the Restaurant Association help with that and in dealing with the city with that? Thank you.
Sure. So that's why we partner with the Business Properties Association. I would say that's more some of the issues they've been dealing with specifically. And I'm happy to connect you or anyone, Brittany or Edith, whatever, with my colleague over there, Rex Heim, who's been doing a really stellar job advocating for business properties. We've tried to get some relief from the state level on that, and it was really left up to the counties as well. So working with your counties, it's a domino effect, right? I mean, if you don't have businesses that are open and they're closed, not because of their choice, they're being told they have to be closed. We're not going to see any relief on the domino effect all the way up to the property owners until we're able to really focus on getting these businesses back up and running. I think it's going to be challenging. I know that the Restaurant Association, we partner a lot with them. They're putting together and they're working very hard directly with public health officers up and down the state, because the issue of reduced capacity in a restaurant has a different implication than a reduced capacity in a retail. Because as Larry was talking about, you can wait in line and eventually go in and shop, but how long are you going to sit there and wait? We don't want people crowding in front of a restaurant waiting. So restaurants really want to figure out how they can get in as many people as possible in order to make up that revenue, because their costs are the same, right? They still have to buy the food, they have back of house, they have their chefs and their cooks and their support staff. So there's a lot of things that need to be discussed. And I think this is a really great opportunity for local governments to work with groups like the retailers, the restaurants, the business properties. We want to help you. We want to be able to advocate for you as well and join forces so that we can really put together a strong coalition that can help get businesses back online so that it can continue to feed into the rest of the economic ecosystem and work its way up to make sure we finally get whole at some point. So the issue on property and rents and all of that is a huge one. I don't have an answer to that yet, other than doing everything I can to help as many businesses as I can, particularly in the retail industry, get back up and running.
I think that,
Thank you. Just real quickly, so it is 11:54. I want to invite, I see Dixie, she manages many of our shopping centers. I really want to hear from her because I'm so worried what's going to happen in those shopping centers. So I want to open it up to her. I also, Christine Furstenberg, as one of our leaders at ICSC in our regional area, I want to know if Christine has any thoughts, anything that is brewing here locally. But before I open it up to Dixie and Christine super quickly, I want to tell Rachel that for us in Morgan Hill, one of the conversations that is brewing that will come to City Council for a policy conversation is recognizing that the restaurants are going to need more space. Do we need to allow the restaurants to push out onto the sidewalk, into the street, and maybe do a road diet to allow them just to be able to stay alive? And that is a policy conversation for the council. But for us, even implementing that, even if the community was supportive of that, financially it's going to cost us money. And communities the size of Morgan Hill that is under 50,000 residents, we don't get any financial resources. So an area where you can advocate for communities like Morgan Hill is to say, hey, we're trying to be proactive, but we need financial resources that are not trickling down to us. And we have great ideas and are willing to sacrifice and do things differently, but we need help from the state. So we can come back to that. Again, being very cognizant of people's times, super fast. Dixie and Christine, what are you hearing from Dixie from the shopping center, specifically in Morgan Hill? And hello, and thank you for being here.
Hi, well, thank you very much. We handle several shopping centers in Morgan Hill, and many of our landlords have been willing to give a rent deferrals for a period of 60 to 120 days, and then spread that deferral out over the next 12 months or even further, depending upon the lease and the tenant and if they're an essential business or not. I know that the mass majority of my owners are trying to be very creative and cognizant of this. This is a difficult time for all of us, and they want to help their businesses through their tenants through this time and allow them to enough leeway so that they can open up and remain a tenant in their shopping center. I think that, you know, we're all in this together. We're all having a very difficult time. I expect that we will have quite a few vacancies hit the market very soon after, or if actually now, in a lot of cases. And so it is gonna be a challenging time. So we just need to get creative. We're doing a lot of Instagram, a lot of, you know, Facebook, a lot of all of the online services, and trying to get the word out that the tenants that are open are available to you know, to deliver or for pickups, and letting everyone know that, you know, the businesses that do plan to open back up, that, you know, what their schedules are like. Ownerships are getting really creative with helping with you know, digital marketing, rent relief. I mean, they're doing everything that they can to make sure that the tenants open up again, and that we can get back to some type of normalcy.
Thank you, Dixie. Christine, do you want to unmute? I know you're probably on phone and not on, I don't know if she can.
Hello?
Yes.
There. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful webinar. Thank you all for being on the panel. It's been fabulous. As part of ICSC in the Western states, we've been focusing very much on not just how to support the retailers opening up. And Rachel, I appreciate all of that information you have, and I may be reaching out to you more to gather more information. But the point of, I think, Edith, your point is the cities are very, very seriously impacted by the retailers being closed down. And while it's wonderful to have these ideas on how cities can help the retailers, the fact is many cities are going to need as much help, if not more, than some of the retailers are. So we're trying to find ways on what can be done. And I've reached out to, Rexheim is a good friend of mine, Rachel. I've reached out to them to see if there is some way we can find processes and agreement in the landlord area, if you will, to charge half rents, to extend the leases on a longer term basis. Because what I'm not as concerned about these 2.5 months that we're all in lockdown. What concerns me is, how do retailers survive for the next 6 months when they're at half occupancy but they pay full rent? I think it's a really challenging thing, and I don't want to see retailers be going out on a much higher basis in 6 months. You know, almost all retailers can get by for a month or two. It's this 6 months out before we get a vaccine that is concerning. We can't expect landlords to take a hit. we can't expect the tenants to be taking a hit the whole time. How do we overcome this? And I think it's the question of the day. So there's a lot of effort being expended by the P3 of ICSC to try and figure out how this might be solved. And we're talking to legislatures, we're talking to Congress, we're talking to all the state and federal groups. Nobody wants to make any offers yet. So again, it'll have to be done collaboratively, but there is a domino effect of this. And it's not just the retailers, it's not just the landlords, it's the cities too, and cities and counties. We really have to understand how impactful it's going to be on everyone. In fact, Edith, any input that you have, thoughts that your city is looking at as to what you think would be beneficial with regard to ideas as to how to keep cities afloat, please forward those to me, and I can run them up the flagpole all the way up so we can get them to Congress. But that's my 2 cents. Again, thank you so much for putting this on. This has been really helpful.
Christine, thank you for your leadership with ICSC and for what you do. We are from the city side developing a long-running list. The Chamber has a list that they're starting to collect with their members as well as ourselves on ideas for recovery. Brittany?
Yep, that's pretty much all I had. Do you have anything else?
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it. Thank you to our presenters, the council members that are online. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And I believe, Edith, this was recorded and will be uploaded to Morgan Hill page. And
we will upload presentations also from the California Retailers Association and people's contact information where they can get engaged. So
yes, contact information would be great.
Okay, we will upload that on the city's website and share with you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Anything I can do to help, please reach out. Thank you.
Will do. Bye. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.